Well, okie doke. We have made more progress, but I digress. Yeah, it's refreshment time. Yep. I've been through enough. I've hit my hands with hammers. I've done everything. So let's say. Yeah. Yeah. No, we're not mocking the song Red Solo Cup. That one's pink for breast cancer awareness. Yep, they were on sale. Anyway, Pepsi mixes best with real sugar. It tastes better. And we are going to. Yep, we are. Right there. The drink of champions. Yeah, let's sample it. Yep, not bad. Well, back to work. Well, you guys that follow me over on Facebook, you can just search me, Jason Belt. You'll see a big old picture of that as my profile picture. But anyway, yins have already seen this picture saying all hell is broken loose over at the Tomater Garage. Well, all hell has broken loose. There's parts laying every damn where. Yep, we have successfully pretty well removed this front axle. Everything's broke loose. I have not applied heat to anything except for one shock bolt that just somebody put it in backwards. Probably me. Actually, I know I did it, but anyway. Put it in the wrong direction, just couldn't get on it, so I just took a torch and whacked it. Done with it. A bottom bolt. Just put just minimal heat to it and chopped it off just because I didn't want to fool with it. But other than that, I put heat to nothing. And I've got this front axle out of this truck. It's a 78 model Ford pickup, and this front axle ain't ever been out, so, you know, if you look at the scale and the rust and things to that nature, I think that I've done pretty good. And you can look at these bolts right here. They look pretty bad. But thank you to CRC, I will say that. Their stuff is superior to anything else on the market. And it's not like they're, paying me to tell you that. I'll flat tell you that. They are superior. They're penetrating oils and different things. They work miracles. And earlier in this video, I said I was going to use freeze-off. The only thing I used was power lube. I never got the freeze-off out of the cabinet. It's still in the cabinet, I think is where it's at. Anyway, it's in there, I'm pretty sure. If it ain't in there, it's over here in this other cabinet. I never bothered to get it out. All I used to break 30 years of rust loose, well over 30 years of rust, was that right there. And I had a big puddle of leaking gear oil that came out through here. And to clean that up, granted, it's not brakes, but you're talking about flat cleaning up a gear oil stain out of concrete. It will clean it up. That's one application of it. So if you ever get a big nasty spot in a concrete driveway, this stuff really does work good, and it doesn't damage the concrete. I've done it for years myself. So, but anyway, all we've got to do to get this thing out now is you can see the gap between those. I've already broke them loose. I took I actually used a redneck tool. Where did I lay the blasted thing? Oh, it's back here. I used a redneck tool. Get unzoomed here. You see that? It's a strut tower brace off of a Buick is what this was part of. And a factory strut tower brace. Took it apart. You're talking about the perfect cheater bar. So if you're ever in the junkyard, you see one front driver Buicks from the 90s, it's got a strut tower brace, swap it. Take the bolts out of the end. Fits right over the old school Craftsman ratchets, which probably a lot of you watching these videos don't own one of these. But the 1/2-inch drive and the 3/8 drives got the round handle Craftsmans. Those are awesome. And it fits perfectly in that. I mean perfect. And it makes a great cheater bar. It doesn't flop around. I mean, it's easy to work with. The only thing I would suggest that I have not done, and I have brought blood, is into this. And I may very well do this while I've got my grinder laying right there. That's another story. I tried to separate part of my steering. I tried to separate right there from the pitman arm. As you can see where it's ground around the top? Well, I loosened the castle nut up, which is common. I took a 3-pound sledgehammer and banged it 3 or 4 times. I didn't get carried away, but I had the nut screwed up even with the top of it, and I hit it off center. And when I did, it destroyed the threads up in the very top. It mashed it in. So I had to do some modification work on top of this, because considering this drag link, it may look old. It has no miles on it. It's solid. It's good. But as you can see, hopefully focus is my friend. I don't think it wants to be. Let's see if I can get it to focus better. There we go. As you can see, all the damage was above where the nut tightens. Everything under it's in good shape, so you know I can get my cotter pin back in, everything, no harm done. You usually do not get that lucky. So I saved myself $150 part there, just because of stupidity. Well, it wasn't really stupidity, it was just bad aim, and yeah, it really wasn't the fault of that. But it was bad aim, it really was. I don't think I'd even opened that yet. But anyway, all we've got to do is take 4 bolts out and this axle's out on the ground. I will tell you this, if you're taking one of these apart, you've got the spring perch in the bottom. I didn't video any of this. It's pretty self-explanatory. It really is. You've got the spring at the top. When you go to take this out, there's a bolt in the center. Goes in right here. And there's a bolt right here. You can grab my piece here. It goes in here. Here's the piece, mind you. It's just a clamp. The bolt goes through the center. Where the heck are we at? Come back here. The bolt goes through the center. See, the bolt's stuck in it. And then it bolts right there. See how it goes in relation? But anyway, take a center bolt out first. Then take this, it's a bolt and a tap, just screws together. You take this one out second, the one I'm holding. The other one, take it out first. It's easier to take apart that way. Put it back together is the opposite operation and can be a pain in the ass, just so you know. But after you get this took off, to take these springs out, make sure you've got the truck supported by the frame, which, yeah, it's back there somewhere. Make sure you got it supported by the frame. The lower to the ground you've got it, if you're changing out an axle housing, the better. This thing's almost on the freaking ground. It's a ½ inch off. I measured and tried to remember the best I could, and I thought that it was actually going to come out resting on the ground. I was a ½ inch off. So most small jack stands, car jack stands, raised all the way up, right behind the perches, right beside the transmission pan, is the best thing you can do. Be sure to put a floor jack under the bell housing, just for giggles, basically, just to support and level the, just to, you know, your jack stands are way back. Just put it under there just for safety reasons, just to keep it from being out of balance so you don't jar it off of them. And anyway, the springs, back to the springs. I'm off subject. The springs twist into this little tab. That tab right there, they twist under it, almost like a screw. They screw in. Let me show you these springs. Here's the bottom. Remember, penetrating oil is your friend. When the spring is installed, if you're looking at it from the side of the truck, so we're looking into the wheel well, this flat is right here, is what that little piece of metal I showed you, it clamps around where my finger is. Its square has to be there, which means at the bottom of the spring sets in here like this. Well, to get this spring out, you have to unscrew this spring like a bolt. So spray liberally, take a punch and a hammer and just peck, 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 and it will unscrew. While you've got it out, clean the living snot out of it, put a little grease on the bottom of the spring, and you can just take your hand and go like this and turn it back in. When they've been in there for 30 years, they tend to get a bit aggravating. Anyway, enough of that. Well, I've rambled and rambled and rambled, try to make a good video on this. But as you can see, what I've taken apart, I took the brake calipers are hanging on I-beams, or control arms, or positioning bars. There's 100 things. I call them I-beams. I know it's not the correct name for them. That's just like I call this front axle a Dana 44 high pinion, is what I call it. Technically, it is a high pinion axle. That's not the correct name for it. It's actually a Dana 44 RS, which means reverse spiral, and that's the name that Dana gave it. You know, a lot of people call it a reverse spiral, thinking that it turns backwards. It's not reversed in any way, shape, or form. The reverse spiral is the way the gears are cut. It's look it up. There's you've got FSB.com, I think it is, full-size Bronco, and different places. They'll give you a lot of information on it. I've actually looked it up just to see what they had to say about this axle, just basically to make sure that this axle was the same axle, which I knew it was, but anyway. And I found out something else. If you're a Jeep person and you're watching this, The 78, 79 is a useless axle to you, okay? If you're looking some kind of swap. Because this right here, there's no tube inside this. This is not an extra piece. If you get back 77 and back, it's a separate piece. You do have axle tube all the way through. This is actually welded together. The tube's pressed in and welded. There's nothing in the middle of this big iron block. So, you know, but this is the strongest axle of the Ford trucks that were straight axles, the 78 and 79. The 78 actually had larger U-joints than the 79. Kind of interesting, but they did. So the 78's the one you truly want, if you want the toughest of toughest. And if y'all wonder exactly how I broke this, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what happened. I heard this noise. I knew this noise was in this truck. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what. And I really, honestly, did not think it was in the front housing, so I honestly didn't care. Well, you see problems? Yeah. Do you see problems? Do you see the cross pin? Those of you that have been following me for a long time will remember the totaled Crown Victoria video. It's on the Tow Wrecker channel. Go look at it. I can't remember the title of it. I may think to remember to show you, but it's of a totaled one, totaled in the front end. That car was not totaled in the front end until this truck and an 18-wheeler got involved in an accident, which hence the bronze, brown, gold, whatever color that's supposed to be bed that is on my blue truck. Anyway, we wound up hitting the side of a bridge with this truck with the car behind it on a dolly. Destroyed the dolly, the tow dolly. Well, anyway, I had to pull it out of the road. We was out there in the dark, 9:30 at night. It was fall of the year. Time had changed. There was nothing we could do except sit there and wait for somebody to come up across there and hit us. We had both lanes of the interstate and partially of the side of the little bit of extra room on the side of the bridge we had blocked. So we had to get it out of the road. The thing is, we walk around the truck here. This video's getting a bit long, so I need to shut up in a minute. But anyway, this axle was broke clear off the truck. It was sitting on the backing plate. I pulled a Crown Victoria 4,000-pound vehicle out of the road with the front axle of this truck and dragging its tail along behind it. I jerked it out of the road, and I'm talking 5,500 RPM neutral drops. It's an automatic truck in 4 high. I'm talking neutral drops to get it to move because it was just smoking the front tires. That is how I just exploded this carrier. That is how I exploded it. Oh, notice my rattle gun. It's still wrapped up. I haven't even brought the air compressor out. I done all this by hand. There's one thing about it. If you do it by hand, you know whether it's going to break or not. You do it with a rattle gun, it goes snap, and you go, crap, I should have cleaned those threads a little better. So remember that. The time that you may save with one of those right there could actually cost you hours if you're trying to dig a bolt out of that cast right there. I'm pretty sure it's cast iron. If it ain't, it's some kind of forged steels. It's got to be strong. I think it's cast iron, I really do. But anyway. But to make a long story short, I dogged the living snot out of this thing, and I will say that a Dana 44 is a pretty tough axle if it can withstand what I gave it and stay together for a year, about a year and a half, or a little less. You know, it's been 3,000 miles at least, and it stayed together until I dogged on it again and it blew apart. I think what it did was broke this pin right here, and it was floating around, just going by the waller outness. I think it was just floating. And that was the noise I was hearing. Every now and again it was just binding. These gears, as you can tell, the gears look good. The pinion, the ring gear, I think it's got a chip or two in it, but it looks pretty dang decent. The pinion, where it chewed those, the little spiders, where it chewed those up, it pretty well ate it. But anyway, that's a pile of parts. I wasn't going to actually change the entire housing until I decided that this housing is exactly the same as the housing that's in the truck. It's exactly the same. It was from a 205 transfer case truck, hence lockout hubs. It's had warrants put on it, but still yet, it's somebody probably busted the hubs why that's there. But it come from a part-time four-wheel drive truck, which means this axle has not turned much. I know this axle was good. I actually drove it, so I'm not too worried about it. I am going to open it up, of course, and change it. No, I'm not going to clean it up. I'm going to wait until I get it in the truck and we're going to do a little bit of take it to the car wash and clean it up. They can have the grease. But anyway, I got to disassemble this thing just like I disassembled that one, just to get it in, because we lopped off the trailing arms, or whatever you want to call the darn things. I call them I-beams, you know, whatever. But anyway, I think the ball joints are actually froze up on this one, but, you know, have torch, will cut, I really don't care. These here are fairly new ball joints, and they will come out, I'm pretty sure. And I'm just going to use my knuckles, no big deal, and put all my hubs and stuff back together. So anyway, enough of that. I'll show you when it's out, and we'll call this a video. See y'all.